Hi Fox, how you doing? Lots of days without videos, and here we go with another game of Wesley So. An interesting game. The Philippines GM plays, well, at that time maybe he wasn't a GM yet, but GM to be Wesley So played in the Singapore Masters tournament in 2006, in December of 2006, just almost in the New Year's Eve. With white pieces, and he played this game against Li Chao, a Chinese player who is currently a strong GM, rated 2680 or something like that. Really strong GM, almost in the elite. And at that time he was rated 2508, and Wesley was rated 2411. So both of them were already strong, very strong players. Not probably not GMs yet, but very strong and young players from Asia, playing in the Singapore Masters. And here we go. Wesley is white here. Plays e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, knight c3, knight f6, the four knights, and d4, the four knight Scotch opening. Of course, a very valid opening at almost any level, but considered to be a little harmless between strong GMs. But anyway, lots of players, lots of attacking players have used it as a surprise weapon and creating lots of interesting games. Kind of people like Shirov, I remember, or Mamedyarov, or even I remind Kramnik playing this against Aronian. Kramnik, who always plays d4 and or knight f3, these kind of close games. He played e4 and this Scotch four knights against Aronian in their friendly match a couple of years ago in Switzerland. Now bishop after takes, bishop b4 with a fairly simple idea of winning the pawn on e4, because the knight on c3 is now pinned, is not defending anymore. And okay, here the absolutely main move is to take on c6, b takes, and now protecting the pawn on e4 with bishop d3. Short castle, short castle. Now rook e8 was played here, attacking once again, putting more pressure on the pawn on e4. The absolutely main line, clearly the main line is d5, much more common. Now white takes, black takes, bishop g5, c6, protecting the pawn on d5, and this is a roughly balanced game with chances for both. An interesting and very playable position. But this was not played. Rook e8 was played by Li Chao. Another very logical and sensible move. Bishop g5 anyway, and now, well, the pin is not very pleasant because white has a pawn on e4, and well, there could be some issues there. h6 and bishop h4, keeping the pressure on the knight, keeping the pin, because otherwise, I mean, taking black is already threatening to win a pawn on c3. The queen is now very active, and white must be careful, as he probably is a little bit worse here. So giving up the bishop pair and activating black is not a good idea for white here, so bishop h4 is a good move. And here rook b8 was played by black, putting the rook in an open file. Seems logical. There are lots of other possibilities here. For instance, to strike in the center with the typical move d5 or d6, just keeping solid, trying to prevent e5 in some moment, controlling more the center, or or even, I don't know, exchanging on c3. Lots of possibilities here. But okay, rook b8 was played by Li Chao, and Wesley goes ahead with f4, just controlling much more this e5 square and threatening to right now to advance the pawn onto e5 and win a piece. Now bishop e7 seems compulsory. There is no other way of preventing e5 and losing a piece there, thanks to the pin. Now Wesley plays kind of prophylactic and slow move, not bad, b3, just securing this b file, not letting black to take on b2. Here Li Chao goes for an interesting line, which is going to lead ultimately to the final of the game. Although he loses the right track in the game later, now black is okay. He plays bishop c5 check, and after king h1 he goes ahead with bishop d4. Seems very very okay, seems an okay move. Now I'm attacking the knight on c3 and also controlling a little bit with the bishop the e5 square. Now this is already a very interesting position. Now here So plays a very strong move, sacrificing an exchange, creating lots of complications, but certainly there are lots of possibilities here, couple of possibilities with lots of calculation to be made. Now knight e2 is the move that Wesley placed, attacking the bishop on d4 and also threatening, keeping the threat of e5. Of course, the little disadvantage of this is that you're giving up the exchange, but of course Wesley saw that, and his idea is to give up the exchange, letting black to take on a1. We'll see what happened in the game later, a couple of minutes later, but just let us see what would happen if black played e5, a move that seems logical. Now here black takes on c3, keeps threatening the rook on a1, and kind of ignores the threat on his own knight on f6. And it seems that in all variations black is just winning a pawn, because after e takes f6, black can recapture with the bishop on f6, and well, if white goes away with the bishop, black is going to take on a1, otherwise he takes on f6, queen takes f6, and black has won a pawn. And well, maybe he's not winning. This is not a winning position because his pawn structure is not that great and he isn't that very active, but a pawn is a pawn and white must be careful. In a similar manner, not here, but after taking on c3, white could play rook b1, it seems, but interesting enough, now black plays d5, and similar to the other line, if white takes here, what else? Black recaptures on f6, and well, the point is now that white can move the bishop without having to exchange it because the rook on a1 is not hanging anymore, but anyway, black has won a pawn. But this all did not happen, so this was more or less favorable to black, and probably these lines were the lines that Li Chao was relying on to be played. Instead, Wesley played a very strong move, knight e2. Now black takes on a1, what else? Queen takes a1, and now there are lots of threats against black. e5 is one of them, but that pin is going to give black more problems that he probably would expect. d6 is played here, trying to keep solid and control this e5 square a little bit more, but here a very interesting, a very wise move, knight g3. The knight is getting more active, and one of his main ideas is to go knight h5, putting more pressure, even more pressure on this knight on f6, which will be attacked with the knight, with the bishop, and also with the queen from a1. Don't forget about the queen there. It wasn't that great to play e5 right away because black takes, white takes, and now there are a couple of more or less forcing moves, which are very interesting also to see. In which, thanks to these moves, black reaches more or less an equal position. Rook b4, very interesting, very surprising move, attacking the bishop. Now, if the bishop goes back, the knight will go away to d4, for instance, and there is no pin anymore. White is not getting winning material. White could go to e1 with the bishop, attacking the rook, but now knight d5, getting away from the attack on f6 and protecting the bishop, the rook, and well, white takes, black takes, material is equal once again with more or less equal chances, but here I would slightly prefer white. Black's pawn structure on the queen side is very damaged, it's almost ruined, couple of isolated pawns there, double pawns on the c file, and also white is more active, has more active pieces. Black could f7 could be weak in some point, although it doesn't seem that frightening for black, but I think white is a little bit better here. But anyway, this did not happen. Knight g3 was played by here at this point by Wesley So, and here rook e6. Now giving extra protection to the knight on f6. Now Wesley commits himself into playing with his pawn to f5. This makes the e5 advance impossible in the game, but he has more resources thanks to the knight on g3 to keep attacking the position. Now rook e5, this is blocking the diagonal from a1 to f6, so that knight h5 is not that harmful. But anyway, the position is already very, very dangerous for black. Here knight h5, the most logical move. The idea was to keep attacking the knight on f6, which is pinned, and now we can see that the rook on e5 is at least protecting, keeping the queen on a1 from attacking the knight once again. And these couple of pieces I highlighted here on b8, the rook, and on c8, and the bishop are really doing almost nothing. And this is one of the reasons that black is going to lose, and thanks to the fact also that this pin is very strong on the knight on f6, he hasn't really any compensation, any counterplay. Here king h7 was played just to keep, I don't know, to get away with the queen, with the king, and I don't know, to keep to not get into a checkmate attack maybe. I don't know, but now another very intelligent move by Wesley. Queen e1. Now dark squares are weak, and the queen is going to take advantage of that fact, attacking it. Now g7 is a target. d5 is played here, and finally black cracks under pressure because this is losing almost immediately with some forcing moves. But okay, the pressure was already very, very hard. Now bishop takes, g takes. What else? You can take with the queen. The knight is on h5, and now queen h4. The simple idea of taking on f6, creating lots of problems to the king, to the black queen. Now queen e7 is played. Now you may wonder why white didn't play queen g3. The first spot he could play this, attacking g7, but it seems that queen h8 is protecting, and well, it's also a great position for white, but at least black has this extra possibility of protecting g7 with the queen. But now after queen h4, black plays queen e7, and now it is not possible to play queen h8 to protect g7 anymore. So now white goes queen g3, and well, the attack on g7 seems unstoppable. Although black can play queen f8. Now the pawn on f6 is hanging with a check, and the knight and the rook on e5 is going to fall. So this is already more than lost. And instead of queen g3, another interesting and beautiful way of winning was just simply taking on f6. This is already winning a pawn, but the point is after king g7, white is sacrificing the knight for temporarily. Queen g4 check. Now queen takes, and once again queen h4 check. Only move, no other way of going for the king. King g7, and now very beautiful f6 check, and the queen is going to be lost, winning the game on the spot. So well, Wesley didn't go for this, but it was a beautiful way of winning this, of course. But after queen g3, this Li Chao already resigned the game. Only 22 moves have been played, and the Philippine GM wins in a really interesting and beautiful way this game in 2006. So hope you liked the game, and thanks for watching.